Hello, hello. Is anybody out there? It is an early morning here in Vietnam. Sorry for being a little late. That is my MO. MO? Is that what you know? Basically, I'm late a lot. And it's early here in Vietnam. I got my coffee, my iced cafe. Cafe da. Is that what they would call it in Vietnam? How's everybody doing? I'm guessing it's nighttime mostly where you guys are. How's everybody's Saturday night? Are you ready to talk some camera news and a little bit of just chatting back and forth? That's what I always like to do with everybody. If you're here and you're in the chat, let me know where you're at. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I'll stop if I can. I'm checking my audio levels. If anybody's in the chat, let me know. Is my audio coming through clear? Is my internet signal good? I usually like to cut off this VPN. But if it's working, it's working. Let me know if I'm having too much a delay. Let me know. I'll cut off the VPN. If you're here in the chat, I appreciate talking and communicating. I'm going to actually check my own feed here. Oh, it doesn't look too not clear. If you're here and you're watching, hit that thumbs up. We get this out to more people. We can get a bigger conversation going. That's always helpful and always appreciated. So yeah, today we have some pretty big news that we're going to go over. Canon dethroned Sony in the mirrorless BCN numbers, which that's a pretty big deal because Sony has been on top of the mirrorless game for a while now. I mean, I don't know if they've went back and forth in the past, but I do know that the graph looked fairly significant, and it's really not a shocker to me. And I'll go over some of the reasons why I think that's happening, and we can talk about that and debate it back and forth. And then it's going to talk about a little bit about the Nikon Z8, supposedly maybe being announced in August. Also, they were saying that it's a possibility that it's the Nikon Z6 Mark III, which would be interesting as well. And I had a lot of people saying that they believe it's going to be a APS-C camera coming from Nikon. So I'd like to get everybody's opinion on that, and we could talk about that some. And then what else do we have on the agenda? I put it out there, but I just woke up early in Vietnam. I have a headache. I'm just kidding. I'm good. After I drink my coffee, I won't have as much of a headache. But we'll figure out the third topic. We had three topics. No, I just mentioned them all. Nikon, Canon. Oh, the R5 update. That was the other one. So there was a lot of firmware updates that came out. The R3 actually got recalled, or I guess that's the term. They stopped the update. They told everybody to backdate it, so that one didn't go so well. But the R5 update, which to me is super impressive. I know that there was a lot of overheating situations that basically weren't happening with this new update. So it looks like this camera is finally the camera that everybody hoped it would be, that Canon kind of marketed it to be. And really, 2 years later, I see it as the best hybrid on the market, at least in my opinion. For everything you get out of it with the photography capabilities, the 8K that doesn't apparently overheat anymore, it's pretty nice. If you're here, you want to just listen, you're welcome to do so, but I appreciate chatting. If you're here just listening and you want to throw that thumbs up out there, get this out to more people, so some people might want to chat and interact. That would be very, very appreciated. All right, let me bring this up. Let's bring these BCN numbers. Y'all want to start with the top of the story? Y'all want to kind of go somewhere else first? Let's see what, because actually I haven't reloaded the news today, so sometimes you reload that news screen coming up here, and you actually wind up seeing other stuff here. So let's see what happened. So we're Fuji rumors. Let's see. I reloaded. I had this all set up last night, so I sometimes scroll through here. We get lucky. T5 no battery grip. That sucks. Nothing great on Fuji rumors. No, no, no juicy tidbits. Let's check Nikon. So Nikon rumors is still not saying anything about that Nikon Z8. That came from Canon Watch, which kind of was a little bit of a red flag. It was kind of an interesting situation there. So they still haven't said anything about it. They said stuff about the Z8 in the past, but they have not acted like it's coming in August. So with them being quiet about it, I feel like if they have had any kind of inclination themselves, they would have confirmed things. Let's see. Go back over here to Sony. Sigma's new full frame something sensor be produced by the radio. Don't care about that. Let's try to find this thing. I'm trying to find the BCN numbers. I think they're the one that reported it. It was either them or Canon rumors. Oh, I'm on page 3. That explains things. If you're here and you'd like to chat, please do that. This is about talking back and forth. This is hanging out, looking at some of the news together, and just conversating. That's what these days are for. My internet is not doing the best. Okay, here we go. The BCN numbers. Canon or Sony dethroned by Canon. Dethroned Canon. Oh, what? I completely missed this. I read this completely wrong. Whoa. Okay. That changes my entire premise. Wow. I need to change my thumbnail, but I don't have time to do that now. So Sony dethroned Canon and it's now number one. I should have known if it's coming from Sony offer. I completely dyslexia read that. Huh. I had a whole premise about why I thought Canon dethroned Sony. What? Okay. Well, this is a shock. All right, let me go back to the chat, see if anybody's talking here. And we can maybe talk about the situation. Okay. Esmond said, I have the R6 and I'm disappointed that the firmware update fixes the overheating issues for the R5, but doesn't fix it for the R6. That is kind of bogus. It's interesting because they're a very similar body. There's no reason, especially with the R6, I don't think it ever had a reason to overheat. I mean, I don't know if they're all, fanned out the same way, but it's running a, 20 megapixel sensor. You're running 5 something K downsampled to 4K. It only goes up to 4K 60. So yeah, there's no reason for it to be overheating anyways. I wouldn't assume, especially if the R5 can fix or at least get near fixing their overheating issues with the R5. I don't see why the R6 is still doing that. I feel like the R6, which to me is an amazing camera, especially for the price. You had that 1DX sensor in it. To me, it's kind of interesting that it feels like it's definitely less spoken about than the R5. Reminds me slightly about the Sony A7S III right now, where it seems like Sony's just forgot about it. But I mean, I'm not saying they forgot about the R6, but it doesn't get as much attention as the R5. Let's just say that. And you would think it would because if you're here and you have the R6, I mean that's their mid-range camera. That's their entry level full frame. That's not like older. So that seems like more people would be on that than the R5. Anyways, there's no real reason for it. Sorry, man. Hopefully they'll fix that in the future. So, wow, I had a whole another thought process when I thought that Canon dethroned Sony. I don't know. I read it last night. I just dyslexia or something. I completely made a thumbnail about it. I had a premise. So Well, that's interesting to me. So the reason I'll go back to the reason I'm going to go back over the ideas of why I thought that Canon had dethroned Sony in the mirrorless market. First off, I thought Sony was ahead of Canon in the mirrorless market, um, but that's pretty crazy that that the switch. Because I was thinking along the lines of, Canon's been releasing new cameras and Sony really hasn't in a while. So I was thinking, that could be a contributing factor. And then also I was kind of thinking around the lines of, Canon has been doing big firmware updates to their cameras, improving it. Like the R5 it's pretty incredible what they've done with that camera, and Sony hasn't really been doing that as much. So I thought that might be messing with it. But what actually could be happening, and is another story, and this is kind of coming to my attention here. But since the opposite's true, and Sony is dethroning Canon, that's pretty interesting. What I would say is maybe the culprit here is, or at least a contributing factor, is right here. The Sony manager says the ZVE10 had the largest number of reservations ever among mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras released by Sony. So I know a lot of people, including myself, aren't big on this camera. They think it's, I don't know, very disappointing on the spec department. It wasn't necessarily the camera that most people, I feel like, or the people, myself, or people that I see around in different circles who are, adamant about all the different cameras. It wasn't the best spec'd out camera, let's just say that. The sensor was old, it had that jittery stuff. I felt like it was made for vlogging, but they had a lot of limitations in the vlogging department with that terrible crop. So there was a lot of different stuff that wasn't working out for it. But apparently it's working out for Sony in some people's hands, because they're out there selling a bunch of them. So maybe little cameras like this is contributing to the fact that that Sony is back on top in the BCN numbers. Maybe that's the possibility. Maybe that's what's happening. But yeah, if you're here in the comments, let me know. Let's chat about it. Jason, yo, I'm actually surprised Canon was apparently ahead. Yeah, that was one of the reasons that it kind of got me too. Your profile picture isn't up. Did you change it, or is this a bot? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I thought that in the mirrorless sector that Sony has been basically reigning supreme this entire time. So I don't remember when it switched, but apparently it had switched. I can bring back up the chart. Maybe we can actually see it for ourselves. Let's see here, because this chart, it has it right here. So it looks like, if you can read Japanese, which obviously I can't. No, I think it goes month to month. So this is this would be July, the 7th month, and that's when it looks like Sony took back over. So it really looks like ever since October of last year is basically the last time Sony was on top, and it looks like right about the start of November is when Canon overtook them. And it looked like they've been over them since basically November of last year. So they reigned supreme about 7 or 8 months. Wow, in the mirrorless market. And I don't know. I remember different BCN numbers. I didn't remember them actually knocking Sony off the throne in the mirrorless market, but apparently they did until recently. But in y'all's opinion, like, what is the reason, y'all? I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm from the South originally, so what are your opinion? What is your opinion? Why would this be this steep decline from Canon here? Is this just supply chain issues? Because you just came out with the R7, the R10, your R5, your R6. All those are getting big updates. You know that the R7 had to be a big deal for them. And then you have, on the flip side, you have Sony, to my knowledge, hasn't released much new, except for a firmware not for my camera that I'm really upset about. No, but is it that ZVE10? Is that's what's contributing here for this huge growth? This is summer months, so maybe people wanted a little, vlogging camera. And when I say vlogging camera, I'm not saying they want to be a vlogger, which a lot of people do, but I'm just saying in general, a lot of people want a small little camera they can take out to the beach with their family that can maybe perform better than their smartphone. So they get that camera. So maybe that was a contributing factor. Who knows? Apparently that camera is doing really well. And it took back off here, it looks like in June is when they had some skyrocket. I'm just trying to think of what came out in June in particular that dropped Canon and rose Sony. That's interesting. Bring back up the chat here. Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry, I'm having... there's your... it's weird, your profile didn't show up for a minute. Maybe since the R5C and R3. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was when things... That's when they took back over. Yeah, you're right. But I'm just surprised. I don't know what the change was last year that would have changed this, or not last year, last month. If Canon was on top, I don't know what did Sony release that really changed things up, or was it just like I said, the ZVE10 may be finding a big market share around this time of year. I'm not sure. The ZVE10 is cheap, even if the specs aren't high end. I can see why they sold a boatload of them. I suspect the ZVE10 is cheap, even if the specs aren't high end. I can see why they sold a boatload of them. I suspect that Canon will retake the throne when they start shipping the R10 and R7 in big numbers. That's possible. Jason says they're still pumping out advertisements on the ZVE10. I have a talk at the ZV Nation meet for Sony in 2 weeks. So yeah, maybe high ZVE10 sales. Yeah, that's Canon rumors right here, or Canon rumors, Sony Alpha rumors. I was just reading this. They say that it's right up. It's the story above. That manager says it's the had the largest number of reservations ever among mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras released by Sony. So that's incredible, especially when you think about the Sony A7 III, the A7 IV, and all that different stuff. I usually feel like cameras in this market, or rather this niche, has usually been getting hit harder by the cell phone market. But apparently my working thesis is wrong, or hypothesis, because they're selling the hell out of that camera apparently. So let me go back to let me press you on this, Jason. So you said they're still pumping out advertisements on ZV. I have a talk at ZV Nation meet for Sony in 2 weeks. So yeah, maybe high ZVE10 sales. That is a good bit of information. So if you don't know, Jason is a big shot YouTuber. He won't tell you himself, but he's a pretty big deal. So he's saying that in 2 weeks he's going to ZV Nation. Does that mean there's like the rumored? There's been a big rumors of new ZVE10 style cameras coming out. So like maybe a higher end ZVE10 or a ZVE. No, they wouldn't have a 2 if it's selling so good, right? I wouldn't think they wouldn't have it this fast. But is there a new ZVE10 that you're not, or ZV camera that you're not telling us about, Jason? Have you caught wind of something? Can I run with it and make a video and then get everybody mad at me when I'm wrong? If Jason doesn't answer, I'm going to take that as a yes. He just slipped up. No. Okay. The M50 was Canon's highest seller for the last while. It's a cheaper camera that drive the profit numbers. Well, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, the M50 was a huge hit, and maybe it's because Canon hasn't had an M50 type of camera that's small and compact and that people like to carry around with them. And A lot of YouTubers use that M50. I know, and I'm not saying camera YouTubers. I'm just saying YouTubers in general. That's kind of a entry type level camera that'll give you decent studio stuff if you have some good lighting. I mean, I'm using I'm using my 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 camera on my laptop here, so I'm not somebody that needs to be talking about anybody here. So Jason said, "Nah, not that I know of." Well, Jason, you know that I know that I know you know. There's a new ZV-10 here, confirmed by Moving Matt and Jason. Tell everybody, tell Jason. Jason told you and leaked it. No, I'm just kidding. No, but that is interesting that you're going to some ZVE Nation thing in 2 weeks. I could speculate, and maybe you, I'm guessing you haven't heard anything about it. ZV Nation is some form of special ZV camera club by Sony. Yeah, it sounds a whole lot like they're releasing a new ZV camera, Jason. This had to cross your mind. Which is the telltale sign the ZV cameras are here to stay. Yeah, that's true. And there has been, all jokes aside, there has been a lot of rumors about a new ZV camera coming. Actually, I think that was in one of the situations here as well. If you're here and you're listening, appreciate it. If you'd like to jump in the chat and talk back and forth, I really appreciate that as well. But either way, hit that thumbs up. We get this out to more people, and more people conversate and have a bigger and more fun conversation about cameras. Let's see here, because let's see, I think it was because I was checking this out. I was going through the news last night. Sorry, I'm not trying to make anybody sick with the flipping back and forth here. But they were talking about cameras. Oh, actually, I think it was in the BCN numbers. Here it is. So if you go to this report or this article, okay. So it says reminder in the September/October, Sony will come back from a long pause because I'm not seeing this here in this article, but it was in another article. They were talking about how their sales projections were up. So like every company has a forecast for their shareholders, and they say, you know, did they meet their current expectations or did they miss expectations? If they miss it on the low end, their stock usually gets a big hit. If they miss it on high end, well, then, you know, the stocks rally up. But then in that same process, to their shareholders, usually the same meeting, they send out saying, this is our future forecast. And apparently Sony's future forecast for their cameras said that there was going to be a big up. I think they said around the September-October mark. And that is where they're kind of getting this information saying, it's not where he's getting this information, but it kind of adds to his theory that in September, October, there will be come back from a long pause by announcing the A7 R5 and the new ZV model. So if this is to be believed and that September, October, they're releasing a new ZVE model or ZV model or whatever, it kind of makes sense, Jason, because that's mid-August. I'm going to go out on a limb, Jason. Jason's not saying this, okay? This is not coming from Jason. And he might be upset that I'm saying this. But I bet that if there is that new camera coming, I'm just going to go out on a limb. I think when you go to that event, you're going to learn about that new camera, if not get a testing unit. And then if they're announcing it in September, you have that review unit. Because you did such a great job on their FX3 presentation and talking about all the lens and all that and making me jealous and wishing I had an FX3 instead of an A7S3. I think you're the guy to sell us a new ZV camera, Jason. So whether you know it or not, that club meeting is about you getting a new ZV camera or something of that nature. Jason's like he's silent. He's like, I am not in on this. Sony, do not kick me out of my club. Someone just dropped out of the watching. It was probably Jason. It's like, I can't be a part of this. if you're here, you're watching, we got a few people here. Like I said, jump in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your take. So I'm not monologuing. Jason said, okay, there you go. Sony needs it. R7 is special. Yeah, that's true. That is interesting, though. I guess so. Jason, would you think? Because from indicators that I've seen, like the ZV cameras, they seem to still be on the lower end. Do you think that ZV is actually taking like place of the 6600 series or the 6000 series? So maybe there's not going to be any 6000 cameras anymore, and the ZV is going to just be the new APS-C line coming forward. So like they may have a $1,200 or a $1,400 ZV camera that competes with the R7 versus an A7000 camera or 6800 or whatever you want to call it. So is that what you're kind of thinking, that maybe that's going to be? Because I was thinking ZV as being their like really more. You could have a higher end one, but it wouldn't be anything to compete with like an R7. But that'd be awesome. It'd be awesome if it was. I know a lot of people would be happy to have that, and they, you know, different companies can make a bigger grip. I know like people like a little bit something to hold on to if it's a photography camera, but that could be a good one. But that's a good idea, Jason. They should hire you at Sony. Jason says, I honestly have no idea what they're doing with the naming conventions these days. Yeah, that is something. I like all camera and TVs, cameras, TVs, and monitors. Like, what is up with your stupid naming? Like, I just ordered a monitor. Hopefully, it's actually coming. It's from someplace in Spain. Ordered it to Vietnam. We'll see. Let's see if it actually is real. But apparently, the site looked legit. It didn't look like they just created it on Squarespace. Anyways, not that Squarespace is bad, but it looked like an older site. Please sponsor me, Squarespace. Sorry, forgive me. The point I'm making is the monitor I ordered, it was like 20 LG 27 GPUZ or something. Like, it was ridiculous. I'm just like, what is up? Why? Like, why do you have like? It feels like these are model numbers. Like, these are internal numbers that people get as like saying, oh, this is your working internal this is our secret, internal conversation. This is what we call the product. And then the product comes out, it's supposed to be named something else. So it should be like the Sony, Superior. Yeah, whatever. I'm just making stuff off the top of my head, but it needs to just be like, something like go to the video game situation. Like, why not have like a, PlayStation 5, the Sony camera station? I don't know. I'm just giving examples that it shouldn't be like a dash this, dash that BS. I don't even know what it means. Anyways. Rant, doesn't matter. Hey, so Jason, if you blink twice, if you can tell me. So I heard you say that the FX3 doesn't look like that's coming to the A7S3. Upset about it, but that being said, have they just forgot about the A7S3, or are they actually going to give us an update too? Do you know, by chance? Okay, let's go over here. While you're doing that, I'm going to be pulling up that one of the other stories here. Let's go over here to, like I said, if you're here in the chat. If not, hit that like button and we'll get this out to more people. Am I the only person that like keeps a million tabs open? Am I the person that does that? Okay, let's go to Canon Watch. Let's go down here to Canon Watch. Okay, the new firm. Oh, that's interesting. So that Canon firmware, that the R3 where they pulled it, they looked like they released a 0.1 version. So it looks like they maybe fixed whatever the bug was. So that's good to know. But it's also interesting because apparently they were shipping these out directly with cameras. So some people were some people were getting their cameras repaired and getting it back and having the new firmware on it. So if there was a like bug, that's pretty bad. Anyways, that's pretty interesting. Uh, all right, so let's see if I can find that Canon. I'm looking because Canon Watch is the one who came out with that article. Um, the article that talked about the Nikon Z8 or Z8. Oh, here it is. Okay, Nikon announced a new. Uh, I, I don't know what is that. Milkos. I don't know. Maybe that's some Nikon term that I'm not used to. Soon, the Nikon Z8 and slash or the Z6 Mark III. That's what How High is saying here. Um, so this was kind of the rumor that I had a video about. I just basically went on the Z8 premise because that's what kind of made sense to me, and I talked about it. Um, and I just wanted the video to be more concise, so I just didn't bring the Z6 into it, or that wasn't part of it. But the Z6 would also be an interesting thing. Um, a lot of people were saying they would like to see like a 33 megapixel, like a stack sensor. That would be incredible if they came out with a stack sensor for the ZV6 Mark III. Now, to me, I don't think that it makes much sense because those are so expensive. But people were talking about how by removing the mechanical shutter, you actually save $400 to $500. So maybe that is their way of kind of breaking even with it. Because if they came out with a Z6 Mark III with a stack sensor in the same price range as the Canon R6 and the Sony A7 IV, that would be a winner for Nikon, I'm guessing. On the spec sheet, I mean, it's not even out. So, yes. Let's go back to the chat here. Also, what do you think about the Z8? Do you think it's going to be, is this a real camera or anything, or you think it's something completely different? All right. Still no chatters, so I'm going to have to keep monologuing. Um, but I appreciate everybody here that's watching and that's hit that like button, whether or not you can chat or not. I appreciate it. Edward, reason for the sales fluctuation: Sony's A7S III made Canon give us the R5C. The R5C made Sony give updates to the FX3. The FX3 updates give us the R5. No more overheating update. Consumers win. Um, yeah. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying as far as the competition situation. I don't know if those timelines match up with this particular situation, but I mean, I do agree with your overall premise that competition is what is helping drive everybody, drive consumers to win. I do wish. I'm still so frustrated about the A7S III. I don't want to get into it because I've wasted too many heartbreaks. I was even gonna trade in my A7S III for the FX3. It was just extremely hard to figure out the situation to make it work in Vietnam because they were gonna do some trade in stuff, but my camera wouldn't be warranted here for them, so I wasn't gonna get a big trade in value. So like my camera would have a United States warranty, and so they wouldn't be able to warranty it, and so yeah. Anyways, I thought about getting the FX3 while here in Vietnam, but it's going to be a little hard to change. And I do love my EVF, and that is one thing that would be hard to give up because I use that EVF. I know video people apparently don't use EVFs, but I do. I really like at least checking my footage with that EVF is awesome, and even just kind of like I use if you use your head and you like press it up against your head's kind of like that natural gimbal slightly. So I find this, and maybe nobody else does this. Jason, I don't know if he's still here, but either way, people who are way better videographers than me may know better. But I feel like if I have like something that I can hold on to, like even if it's like a little mini tripod or whatever, and I can hold the camera steady to my face and have another point of contact and use that EVF, I have like a natural stabilization there. I feel like it really helps. Of course, you hold it out here with the screen too, but I mean, I don't know. I use that EVF. It would be hard for me to completely give up on it. But yeah, I wanted that FX3 after that update because the biggest thing that I know the Cine EI and everything. I get the idea that there's probably stuff I'm not understanding about it, but for me personally, I mostly shoot in the base ISOs anyways with my A7S III, so I already kind of knew to do like I just do it naturally. Where if something, not all the time, but overall, like okay, if it's too bright, I'm putting an ND filter and gonna to shoot at 640, and if it's too dark and it's close enough, then I'm always gonna try to jump it up to the between the two base ISOs. So that wasn't as big of a deal. But I definitely would love the LUTs. I want that LUTs. I want to be able to put LUTs on my camera, and I love that little side menu. Like I don't want the menus on the Sony A7S III or in general are so. So I would have loved to have a menu that came up and just gave me all my camera information. That would have been great. And I was very disappointed that they're diverging it 2 years later, but it is what it is at this point. I gave up on believing that they're bringing something to Sony to the A7S III. All right, sorry, I don't mean to go back into that because I go into that a lot, and then I get upset, I get depressed. Okay. There was another story. We covered everything. I think we covered all the main stories. We talked about the R5. So I guess let's elaborate into this R5 situation a little bit more. The R5 apparently doesn't overheat, or very minimally overheats at this point, which is pretty incredible. Now, I didn't see the last follow-up video from the Ordinary Filmmaker. He was the guy who was doing a lot of the tests because he has an R5. And so I didn't see the follow-up. He said, did I break my R5? So I don't know if that was like a clickbaity video or if he really did mess up the R5 with the overheating situation. But, I mean, he was running tests just getting ridiculous numbers out of them, even not just base temperatures. I mean, this is 80-degree weather. You know, he didn't have it in the middle of the sun because he's not an idiot. But, you know, in general, I mean, that's pretty great that you're getting all these different, you know, even at 4K 120. Now, the overheating, the time limit is the biggest thing on that camera. But if you just start with what the R5 has and you look at that timeline, if you go back, I actually thought about even making a whole video about it because the history, I mean, it was really brilliant situation that Sony took advantage of. Like, I feel like the A7S III was ready to go for a while because there was even reports of that saying that they didn't really see a need to bring out the A7S III because no other competition was close at that point. And, you know, like, I guess their A7 III was still selling well and the competition really didn't have much new. And then as soon as the R5 was getting released and everything, that's when the A7S III was pretty much right there ready to go. But people, you know, just on the spec sheet, people were seeing 8K, that big overhead number, and weren't understanding that that's not the be all end all. You have dynamic range and all kinds of other things that helps. But people were seeing that big specs, and people were, you know, rightfully so, thinking that Canon, you know, had something huge going on. And then when that big overheating issue started happening, like Sony was right there ready to pounce with the A7S III. And they did, and it completely took the wind out of the R5 as far as, not that it didn't sell well. I mean, the R5 sold great. But I'm just talking about in the YouTuber space of the actual narrative. The narrative changed from, you know, or the narrative around the R5 was all overheating. This is unusable. This is blah, 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 blah. You shouldn't have marketed it for this. And that was always my biggest gripe about the R5 was I believe that they marketed it wrong. I think if they would have marketed the R5 as a photography camera first and say, oh yeah, it does this 8K too, then we would have never had that issue because people, but from the very beginning, it was all about the 8K, the 8K. Like all the leaks were about 8K. And then even when they had like a development announcement, I don't even think it said any of the photography specs. It was just 8K. So it was great that they were going to be the first ones to it. And I get that's why they did it. But if they were going to do that, they should have had it in the state that it's in now. And so, anyways, with the situation that happened, though, it was marketed bad for the particular camera that it was at the time. And then Sony came in and it just like completely took the wind out of the sails of like, or at least with the narrative, because the A7S III came out and people were praising it. Was it Gerald, anyway, whatever. Gerald Undone was like a masterpiece, and then you had just everybody talking about it. Casey Neistat's like, this is the best camera ever, all kinds of stuff. And the R5 was just getting roasted. But now, if you look at the situation 2 years later, and the A7S III, which is still an amazing camera, but hasn't had any substantial upgrades, has basically just stayed the same. And the Canon R5, which was a camera that, was marketed all these different things, but was very unusable at the time with the different, it wasn't even just the overheating, but it was the files and all that. Well, now the Canon R5 has, Canon Raw Light and all these different other types of stuff. It now dual shoots to both card slots. You can actually shoot to both card slots now. The overheating issue seems to be very minimal. So that's gone. They've just done a world of an improvement on that camera. And the A7S III is essentially the same camera that released 2 years ago. So I definitely think there's value in continuing to give support to a camera well after the top fact, because I am impressed with the R5. I will say that. So yeah, sorry. Anybody else want to throw something out there? This is very one-sided conversation, guys. I feel like I'm talking to myself. This is some early morning here in Vietnam. So, I was going to talk a little bit about my trip here. I guess since if anybody have any other camera stuff, let me know. We've kind of hit some of the main topics, but if we want to elaborate in there, drop in that comment section below and let that happen. If you're here and you're watching, hit the like button, do that, and we can get this out to more people. Some of you guys are just listening. I appreciate that. I like to mostly just listen. Like I'll put the phone in my pocket and listen to something. More so than ever interacting. So I appreciate you doing that if that's what you're doing. But if you want to get this conversation moving to other people as well, then maybe hit that like button. We can get this out to more people. Oh, okay. Jason said, thoughts on the Alpha 1? I've been using it for the last 4 weeks. What can you say about the Alpha 1? You probably have more thoughts on it than I do, Jason. But as far as I know, it's still pretty much the king of what it does. I will say, it's one of the fastest. It has the highest megapixels. The the Nikon Z9, which came out essentially a year later because they announced something, but it didn't come out. Maybe it's kind of depending on who you talk to in certain situations, they can kind of go blow for blow. But in that body style that Sony has, that small petite body, what they're able to do with the A1 is pretty incredible, and it's a great camera. But what I will say is, it's for a different market than what most people would be spending on. That's a $6,500 camera, and you have like the R5, which is a $3,900 camera. That's a completely different market. Now, some people will say, and I can see that argument, they can say, well, with Sony's lens setup, you can get a lot of great third-party glass that isn't near as expensive as Canon native glass that's that will work great. And I can see that argument, that maybe you get an R5 and you would be spending just as much, if not more, than an R Alpha 1. But I think that underlining price of $6,500 versus $3,900 is big. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get something in the middle. But Jason, you've been shooting with it for the last 4 weeks. I'm guessing it's pretty incredible. I think I saw one of your comments. You were saying it's a beast. Um, is there a reason they sent you out? Because that's a test unit as well. I'm assuming, because you didn't have the FX3, and you can't tell me anything, and it's okay if you can't. But it seems like there's at least either a new firmware update coming for that camera, or some people are running with the idea of an FX1 because apparently there's some new cinema camera coming. I think it would be kind of confusing to do an FX1. I would love to see them put the Alpha in like in a FX style body. That would be awesome to see that. Like get that 8K using that camera and basically do the FX3 treatment with the Alpha 1. A lot of people have been talking about that, but to me that would be confusing. That would be slightly confusing with the naming convention, because the way they have it set up right now, the FX3, and then it moves up the line, the FXX being a little bit more cinema, and then the FX9, of course. So I don't know where they would put that and how they would do that. Okay. I could almost see the FX3 Mark II being an Alpha 1 in an FX body. I don't know. Jason said, I've been creating IG Reels for Sony Australia is all. Okay, that's cool. That's an awesome gig. Speaking of Instagram Reels, I really need to get on Instagram more. I don't really do that as much. Kind of a little disappointed because I've been creating content for like the travel channel and kind of getting it ready to go, and I was going to start doing some Instagram Reels for that, and apparently I try to log in with my VPN here in Vietnam, and Instagram flagged it for whatever reason, and then I try to reach out to Instagram and they won't get back with me, so they've basically locked my name out of Instagram, which sucks. Not Moving Matt, but the Asian Caucasian Joe. So that's disappointing, because I hear that Instagram Reels is kind of the new thing. Like if you're going to grow on Instagram, you should do it with Instagram Reels. And what I like about Instagram Reels, and I like about short form, I like long form YouTube personally, but I like the idea that you can create a YouTube short, and it's the same as a TikTok and the same as a Instagram Reel. So yeah. That's cool that you've had that opportunity to do that. So does that shoot vertical video like instantly? Does that if you just turn it, does that shoot? Maybe all of them do that, but can you just shoot vertical video that way? Be interesting if you could. I guess you can do that and just flip it. Huh. I'm having a little bit of a congestion here. If anybody wants to throw in any questions or anything, otherwise, might call this one an early one. I've appreciated the conversation. I appreciate everybody that's been here. If we can keep going, I usually go about an hour, but we've kind of hit most of the news stories, and usually I would like to be conversating back and forth, so I'm not monologuing here. And I appreciate everybody who's been talking and everybody's watching. I'm not saying that, so I appreciate all that. I will say, if you do a little bit of a pitch here, if you haven't subscribed, I'm at 1,799 subscribers. So if you can get me to 1,800, that would be awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to call it a day because we've went over most of the news, and It looks like we have a lot of listeners, which I appreciate it, but people that are maybe a little too busy to actually chat right now, and that's okay. So unless you have something to drop here in the comments, then we're just I'll call it a day for now. And I appreciated everybody who showed up, everybody who conversated. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you for watching it after the fact. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking. Thank you for just listening and hitting that like button. Appreciate all of you. Until next time, peace.